All right, great. So I'd like to make a motion to open the meeting.
Motion approved. We need a second.
A second.
Thanks, Robert.
Does that have to
All
ask-
right,
All in favor? Yes, I have to ask all in favor.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, perfect. So let's kick off with, and I know a bunch of these items in the new business, I know, Dan, you covered a bit over email, so we may lean on you a little bit to talk a little bit about what we have open, and then we can cover the old business and any follow-ups, and also hear from all the folks that are in attendance. I'm not sure top of mind unless someone else can call out if any of the attendees are here to speak on the Mamaroneck Avenue Bridge situation.
Wasn't it Miss Chung who wrote the emails?
I believe so.
Okay. Well, Dan, this issue, I feel like it's been bouncing around a while, and I know you covered some of it over email, but do you mind just kind of recapping kind of your thoughts, or at least where it stood?
What we asked our traffic engineer to do was to look at the area on the bridge, both sides of the bridge approach. That's one of the, it's the Metro North Railroad Bridge on Mamaroneck Avenue. I don't want to say Mamaroneck Avenue Bridge because we have actually several bridges on Mamaroneck Avenue. So when I saw this, at first I thought it was the bridge over the Sheldrake River, but it's the railroad bridge. We asked our traffic engineer to take a look at the approaches coming from Mamaroneck Avenue, Hoyt Avenue, and Fenimore to make sure that what we could do as far as the signage to better educate the motorists and provide warning to the motorists. Really, honestly, the biggest issue, it's the operators of trucks. Because even someone driving the tallest SUV is not going to have a problem with getting under that bridge. So it's really the making sure the truck route is properly posted. I had our engineer look at it. They prepared a report, which I had them make a couple of suggested changes to, mostly about clearing up some language. Basically what they mentioned is they suggested some additional regulatory signage on the bridge approaches, on the bridge itself. And by regulatory, what I mean is that's signage that's designed in accordance with the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which governs the size, the colors, the shapes, and the text sizes of these signs, because I would hope that operators of especially 18-wheelers all have commercial driver's licenses and should be paying attention to things like that. Obviously a little bit different when you're dealing with I think we have issues with U-Haul trucks that get stuck there sometimes. But really I think the biggest issue is with the 18-wheelers. So basically it was additional regulatory signage on both the Fenimore Road Bridge, the Fenimore Railroad Bridge, the Mamaroneck Avenue Railroad Bridge, additional signage on Hoyt Avenue, noting that the truck route is a left turn onto Mamaroneck Avenue, and that we have an additional warning sign of the bridge height on Hoyt Avenue. That's in accordance with proper regulations. And what I'm looking to do as a next step is to see what type of signage we can produce in-house through our Public Works Department, and what would need to be done, we need to contract out, because some signs we just don't have the capacity to make. But I don't know what the answer to that question is yet.
Looks like this is still a work in progress, but we have the appropriate people engaged. We have traffic engineers, and I'm not sure, other than waiting for the moment and, perhaps check in with them after a period of time just to see
Yeah, I mean,
what else we could do.
when I forwarded a copy of that report to you, it was, literally hot off the presses. I'd only received it, late last week, so.
Brian,
Yeah, go for it, Robert.
I just want to be sure someone is taking notes. Michael, it looks like you're busy.
I am taking
notes.
I am taking the minutes and already.
Great.
I'm waiting for that Zoom recording. It's hard to
Okay.
keep up, but I'm doing the best I can.
The second thing is, Dan, there was a recommendation about some kind of device where trucks can determine whether they have the appropriate height before they get to the bridge. Is that a realistic or possible solution?
In the report?
There was a letter that we received, a request. Everybody remember that?
Well, I just summarized the recommendations of the report. I mean, the consultant did take a look at the letter. I can ask them to opine on that, but I didn't, I only summarized the.
Okay, it was some kind of apparatus where trucks can determine if they're under the necessary height before they get to the underpass. I remember seeing that.
I'll re-review the letter and reach out to our traffic engineer on that. Is it something similar to say what you'd see on, if anyone's familiar with the Hutchinson River Parkway, if you're traveling south by
Mr. LaRocca is shaking his head. Maybe he can tell us what it is.
by the Maplemore Golf Course.
Yep.
It's basically a radar, and it says that you are too high. I'll check to see if that's what they were talking about. I can follow up with our traffic engineer.
Robert, if you could hear me, it's a red laser. It's a laser that picks up north to southbound across the freeway. It picks up the height of the vehicle because it always gets any school bus going down. It sets the lights off. And they have a video camera system. As soon as you go on, the laser picks you up, and then they can videotape you, and the county police know exactly where the vehicle is to try to catch up before it strikes the Mamaroneck Road Bridge, because that's their lowest bridge on that section going southbound from 287.
Would that solve the problem of trucks not with the right height?
It would warn them. It would warn them, but Dan would have to go back to the traffic engineer because they're professional. They would be able to tell you if you have enough distance. That warns you, like where Dan says at the Maplemore Golf Course,
Like a
you
mile.
have about 4 miles before you get to a bridge that you're, I'm not going to say a mile and a half, 2 exits before you get to the bridge where you're going to get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, but even still, you have the first bridge, which is the one.
The North Street Bridge. The North Street Bridge is higher. Yes.
The mobile station with the mutant.
Yep.
Or
Mhm.
the cell tower tree.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it's distance. It's based on distance to warn you and try to adhere you to exit and avoid striking the bridge and causing a traffic nightmare and damage.
Anyone else before we, and I know she emailed me and Michael while we were just discussing this, and I don't think that she wants to cover this issue, but perhaps she does. It's actually John Gayette. Dan, I'd ask if you could promote to panelist, but
Sure.
first, just want to see if anyone else has a thought.
I'm sorry, I have a quick housekeeping thought. Are the minutes approved after the meeting or before? I thought we approved the meetings before, the minutes from the last 2 months. I thought we approved last month's meetings
At the
meetings
beginning.
before we, yeah, at the beginning, that's what I thought. But it's on the end for this agenda.
Technically, you don't need to approve minutes. You can just file them, but if you want to approve the minutes, most boards do that. So,
I didn't know that, okay.
Just to throw this piece of information, I was on other committees where they approved the minutes from prior meeting at the beginning of the meeting. When I got on the traffic commission, I was told that they approve it at the end of the meeting. So, option. Can I call you back?
Let's,
Yeah, I don't think that whether you approve at the beginning or end is gonna have any effect on whether the sun is gonna rise in the east tomorrow. So,
Brian, your call.
yeah, let's finish this train of thought, no pun intended, with the Mamaroneck, with the overpass. And then we could do it at the end, and then on a go forward, we could do it at the beginning, but as Dan said, it's not the end of the world. Let's, oh, thanks, Dan. Did you promote,
yeah, Mr.
John?
Yeah, that, she's right there and she should be able to speak at any point.
Hi there, it's John Guyette. Can you hear me?
Oh, hi,
Yep.
yes.
Well, first of all, I just want to specifically thank Robert, who actually came out to Knollwood and Crown Court to look into firsthand item number 5 on the agenda, which is the stop sign / speed bump at Crown Court. It really should be stop sign / speed bump on Knollwood. So I just wanted to acknowledge Robert. Also, I know a number of my neighbors on Crown Court are on either the Zoom or have dialed in. So I just want to acknowledge that they're on here as well. I don't know, Brian, if you're able to see who's called in or who's zoomed in, but I know several neighbors on Crown Court are in attendance. And I'll be very brief. The issue is this: when you come off of Mamaroneck Avenue and make a left onto Knollwood, you go up a hill and there's a blind curve before you hit Crown Court. So there are a number of issues. One, kids who live on Crown Court, I have 3. There's probably 10 kids on the block. When they're crossing Knollwood on their way to school, there's that blind curve where cars are coming around the corner, and sometimes they don't slow down, and it can create a dangerous situation for kids and pedestrians. The other issue is when cars are making a left turn out of Crown Court onto Knollwood. There's a stop sign on Crown Court. There's no stop sign coming up Knollwood. And so there's a blind left turn there. And in a couple of times, you know, I know myself and some of my neighbors have come close to actually being T-boned by a car that's speeding up Knollwood. So our proposal, and obviously, you know, we're not traffic engineers, we're just average Joes, but we think it would make sense to put a stop sign on Knollwood before Crown Court with some sort of paintings in the road, which would indicate 1, a crosswalk, and 2, the actual line that indicates where cars should stop. And so I think that's what we're, you know, proposing, and we'd love to, you know, work with whoever the traffic engineer is to have them come out. I know myself and some of my neighbors would be happy to meet with him and show him pictures of the curve and what we've experienced in order to take whatever next steps we need to push this forward.
Thank you, John. And we can see there's 9 attendees. We're just not sure which people are your neighbors. So if you happen to know, or better yet, if you're a neighbor of John and you want to raise your hand. Yeah, I see 2 people.
Yeah, I know Juan is on and Alex. I'm not sure who else is on.
Looks like a Linda. Looks like everyone from Crown Court. Well, that's good representation. Dan, can you promote them to presenter or panelist rather, just so if they have any input, they could speak as well.
I can give them permission to talk.
Yeah,
Do you want me to all 4 of them or one at a time?
let's just do all 4.
Okay. Oh. Okay, so Alex and Juan, Alex just needs to unmute. And they should all be able to speak.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, everybody. I'm Juan Chio. I live on Crown Court next to John. Again, we want to thank you for your time. While some people may think this is a trivial item, I think the people on Crown Court find that this is something that should be addressed for just the safety of both residents that are traveling down Knollwood and for the residents on Crown Court. As John has mentioned, we have at least 10 children that are on the block, and there is often times when drivers are coming up Knollwood and not paying attention. They mistaken Crown Court as Knollwood, and they take the turn at a high rate of speed before they realize they've come to the dead end. So I think, to John's point, is we believe that if we have a stop sign and some road paintings placed on the roadwalk, it would prevent this kind of mistake from happening and prevent a larger accident or tragedy from happening in the future. We're open to show the board or your traffic engineer the situation, and we think that it's a issue that definitely needs to be addressed. And once viewed from a driver coming up Knollwood, I think it'd be a little bit more understandable for the panel and for the group to kind of make a more formal and educated decision on what needs to be done to kind of correct this issue.
Thanks, Juan.
Hi, I don't know. This is Linda Chio. I wanted to say I really appreciate Robert's help when he did come up to meet to see the intersection when we spoke to him the other morning. It really is very difficult both ways. I think John put it very well, whether a car is coming up Knollwood and the kids are trying to cross and walk across, they can't see. And if they go too soon, they can be blindsided. And if you're trying to make a turn out of Crown Court onto Knollwood, it really is dangerous, and you have to inch out very slowly. We have a lot of kids. There are some who who will be reaching the age where they'll be driving. And I'm really worried about when they start driving and if they just are less cautious when they make that left turn. So we've got young kids that are walking to school, and then we've got kids who I think in next couple of years will be driving. And so it really is a corner that should be looked at. I think Robert explained some of the issues that were involved, but I think a stop sign, and as John says, a crosswalk can at least be a way to start addressing the concerns.
Thank you, Linda.
Hi, this is Katie Guyette. Hi, Michael. Hi, Brian.
Hi,
Hey,
Katie,
Katie.
how are you?
I just wanted to say hi. I have a baby who is refusing to go to sleep, so I keep having to go upstairs. But I just wanted to say hi and thank you for the meeting. It's nice to finally get to talk about this stuff with you guys, and I'm so glad that the neighbors have joined in and that you've gotten to hear from them too, and from John. So I think everybody's been bringing up the key points of it all that, I had discussed with you over email, mainly just about those little kids playing. We get really scared for them because as much as we tell them, they really they're not paying attention. And these cars, they can come in pretty quickly, and the kids can pop out of every corner. There is I don't know if anybody said this while I was out, but there is a sign that says like slow children playing. And I would prefer to keep that. It would be nice to just add a stop sign and a crosswalk, but also keep the children play, because I do think that gives another good message. So yeah, but I heard the tail end of what everyone else was saying. So, but that's about it, I think.
Thanks, Katie.
Mhm.
And then 1 second, Robert, just there's one more person. Alex.
Yes, hi. Thank you for letting me speak here at the meeting. So I also live in Crown Court, and I have a child, and I walk to school with him, Mamaroneck Avenue School, and every time we walk, we have to be creative to cross Norwood at that intersection because it's really dangerous. And also, when I drive, I had a number of close calls where cars really swirl around me when I was trying to make a left turn. And we're not talking about speeding cars. I want to make a point. It's the cars that just drive like a regular, speed under 30 miles per hour. And they see you at the Crown Court when they're already at the intersection because of that curve that John described in the beginning. So they're not able to see you. And if it's somebody not from the neighborhood, they don't even know that Crown Court is there because they can't see that from around the curve until you're already on the intersection. So that's why I think the stop sign is absolutely necessary. That's all I wanted to say at this point.
No, thank you, Alex.
Mhm.
Robert, yeah.
There are two parts to this area that's a problem. One is Crown Court. I just want to emphasize that Norwood, when they go up the hill, it's a blind curve. By the time the car gets to the top of the hill, kids or whoever's at the top can't see the cars coming, and the car can't see anybody there. The other part, second part of this is the exit from 95. So I spent about an hour at on Mamaroneck Avenue, the exit 95. You all know where that is, down the hill. And I would say this to you. Nobody stops at the stop sign. And there are two stop signs before you get to the sidewalk that's coming down Mamaroneck Avenue. Out of 50 cars, I saw one car stop at the stop sign. Everybody else rolls down. If there are no cars coming down Mamaroneck Avenue, they just shoot through. They do not stop. The only time someone stops is when they have to stop because there are cars coming down Mamaroneck Avenue. But the point is that even when they stop, they're stopping after the sidewalk. You want them to stop before the sidewalk for the safety of the kids walking down the street.
And Robert, there have been accidents there, as other neighbors have witnessed. I'm not sure if our neighbor Dan is on the call or not, but he witnessed 2 accidents there. So yeah, that's been a little problematic at the ramp. Go ahead.
I just want to add one thing. It occurred to me that the village can make an awful lot of money just putting a policeman or a traffic cop or someone at that location. They'd issue hundreds of tickets every day. They'd make a fortune.
I just want to make a comment about the request for a crossing guard. At the top of my head, I looked at this area as well, and I drive off that exit all the time. I'm not even sure where the crossing guard could be. They would like be in the middle of the street on Mamaroneck Avenue. There's almost like no room when you're exiting off I-95 south onto the street. So the request for a crossing guard, I'm not even sure where they stand to stop the cars. And the cars come around. It's almost like you have to put the stop, you have to push the stop sign back because it's like, it's a wave of cars. So the reality of getting a crossing guard there is going to be difficult.
Stoplight?
Chris,
Maybe
On the throughway ramp,
this is the exit. This is the throughway
Yeah,
ramp
that's-
coming onto.
yeah, that's the
Mamaroneck
throughway property.
Avenue.
They'd have to do that, and I can't recall ever seeing a stoplight at a one-way ramp. But they'd have to make that decision, and it would probably be based on, relevant accident data. I just don't know what the accident data shows, but ultimately, it's the throughways off-ramp. They'd have to make a decision about that.
What about, sorry, this is John, not to jump in, but again, just painting a crosswalk that connects the sidewalks across the ramp and putting in an actual line marker on the ramp where the cars are supposed to stop. I'm not sure if that would completely resolve the problem, but sometimes adding road markings to stop signage, adds visibility to the driver to sort of pull up instead of pulling through the actual intersection. Maybe it wouldn't resolve the problem completely, but it seems like a relatively easy ask to at least do something, while studies are being done to perhaps explore it further.
I think it's a fair point. I was gonna ask, Chris, is there any way we could quantify accident data in that area? I mean, I guess it's two parts. One on Knollwood, as it seems like anecdotally there's been concerns, if not examples, but also to John's point, which we actually have as old business as well, as the Mamaroneck Ave and I-95 ramp. Do we have anything offhand? If not, could we look at getting data on that?
Yeah, we can look into it. I mean, most of the I-95 ramp accidents are before the stop sign. So when actually somebody stops and they rear end them, and then the troopers come and take that report. But that you would probably have to request from the troopers, because we'll get called on it, but it always happens on the ramp. So it never happens on Mamaroneck Avenue. Now, as far as issuing tickets, I honestly can't tell you if we're allowed to. I don't know, because that's technically the throughway ramp stop sign. So I'm not positive if we can issue the tickets. Like Robert was saying, we probably could make a lot of money over there. I see it too, because I live up the street. But the accidents, Knollwood, yeah, I can run that and give you a total for next month or send it to you. Whatever accidents we have there, we can find. That's easy.
Okay. I think that'd be helpful.
Okay.
Appreciate that, as well as like the context on kind of like whose domain is what over there. I know it gets tricky.
Okay.
Robert,
I'm sorry.
no, I'm sorry, Laura, go on.
I don't mean to interject. I'm
No, go for it. You're on the commission.
But is there a way we could get an actual car count of how many cars are actually coming off that ramp every day and how much it's increased over the years?
That's above my pay grade. I don't know. Yes, I would assume they could put something there, but I don't know if the state would have to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the throughway authority
Heavy
would have
traffic.
to do
Because
traffic counts. I mean, I'm sure they have it. But it may be, maybe we can try and find it. I know we can certainly ask. I just don't know what data they have and when it was taken.
Because it is a clear increase. I mean, when you're on 95 trying to get off, sometimes I'll go all the way to Larchmont and turn back around, go into New Rochelle and come back through the side street to get home.
Yeah, I mean, usually the way you try to overcome that is you take measurements over the course of several days. So you determine what they call the AADT, the annual average daily traffic. So that'll account for, if there's like maybe there's an accident somewhere on 95, so a lot of people get off to try and, find ways around it. But I can certainly see what the throughway has. I can't promise you anything though. I've never seen it. So. And sometimes you get lucky though.
I also, when you're coming off of Knollwood Avenue, coming onto 287, I think that's the only place that I've seen an entrance with a red, green light for you to come onto the highway. That's the only place that it's doing it on 287, and it's not even a entrance to come onto a public road. It's actually an entrance to get onto 287 from the public road. They actually have a stop, like green light stop to enter. onto-
You're talking Knollwood as in the town of
That's it.
Greenberg?
Yep,
Okay.
there's one in the town of Greenberg, and I believe what they did there were paint a neon crosswalk, very large, oversized, so you can view the cross from the highway bridge into Greenberg going on to Terrytown Road.
By the town library, right?
Yes,
Okay. I mean, I can probably take a look at the Google Street View. I think that would have been probably something in combination with,
All right, but go sit down. Don't stand up like you're.
yeah, the DOT and possibly the town, but I
I'm
can
gonna
certainly.
go downstairs for a little bit. Okay.
yeah, because at the very least, if we could couple
What's that, bud?
them and try to create a.
Yeah, you're gonna stay up till 9 p.m. Okay.
Distinctive
Daddy's on a phone call, so he's gotta finish that up first. Okay.
vast area.
Huh.
It's
Downstairs,
almost
we're-
like no man's land, you in the car.
It's just ridiculous.
All right, Ryan, I'm gonna, is it okay if I mute you for a second or?
Hey, Dan, can you hear me or see me?
Yes, I can, Lou.
Okay, I wasn't
I
sure.
tried
I was
putting you-
late to it and I wasn't sure if I was on or not. All right.
No, you're on. I tried pulling you to panelists, but I kept having issues, but you're definitely, you're in the group.
All right, yeah, you know what, and what they're saying about that I-95 ramp, Robert's absolutely right. I mean, that they're pointed going with the downtown, with the traffic going down toward town, and they're not watching. That really needs, I think, a crossing guard when the kids are going there. It's very obvious to me as well. But that's that.
I would have to agree with Lou. I mean, I've lived here my whole entire life, and walking from, the flat to the heights and back, that area has always been barren, no man's land. You were on your own to cross this large area with no assisting. And for children to walk back and forth, if it was my own child, I wouldn't want them walking to school, which should be in a walking, it should be, we're a walking district. We can walk back and forth, and it's unsafe for them to do so. Let alone in Washingtonville on the streets that we have, let alone on a main thoroughfare.
Robert, from what you saw in firsthand experience, just pivoting back a little bit, I know they're close by, but I just want to focus on Knollwood briefly. What would you advise or recommend, at least in what you've seen, as far as like what would help the situation? And if you don't know, it's fine. We could do more analysis.
You have this huge sign that says children playing at Children Crossing as you're going up, that help. People ignore that. I think what we've learned from Dan and from Shannon is signs and traffic signals don't help a hell of a lot. People are going to do what they want to do and disregard careful instructions and caution. I don't know.
What about a blind curve sign? Instead of children playing or addition.
If caution, children are crossing doesn't get your attention, I don't see what will.
Still a sign.
Yeah, I mean, is what I mentioned is my general philosophy when it comes to traffic safety is, motorists behave better when they don't have that level of comfort with the roadway conditions. And I mean, that's something you could always look at is, you know, what can you do to create that, and for lack of a term, it's a psychological effect on the drivers to, you know, be more aware of their surroundings.
Dan, given this area, and I think that might be, you know, heightened, in fact, like amplified driver behavior, the fact that it's double yellow, where people like, which implies that it's more of a quote unquote major thoroughfare. What about coming up the hill, a speed bump? Or, you know, a sign indicating, give the slow children, a sign indicating that a speed bump is coming, and then immediately before that intersection, a speed bump, or perhaps lowering the speed limit. I see the speed limit is 25, like maybe we force driver behavior.
So as far as the, you know, the speed bump or speed hump, we've been looking at establishing a pilot program in the village to, you know, have them at certain areas. And we can certainly look at this as maybe one of those pilot areas. As far as the speed limit, so there's the there's the official speed limit, and then you can have your speed limit warning signs. So our official village speed limit is 30 miles an hour, but we've established 25-mile-an-hour speeds on a number of streets. I don't believe we can go below 25 miles per hour unless it was a school zone, and this area is not going to qualify as a school zone because it's too far away from any school. Now, what you'll see is when you have curves in the roadway, you can have a yellow warning sign with an advisory speed saying, you know, the speed limit is, you know, officially 25, but you know, you were advised to go 20 or 15. But that's not an enforceable sign.
Dan, I know you mentioned that the stop signs tend to agitate drivers more so than anything. But in this case with Crown Court and Knollwood, we have one stop sign on Crown Court coming into the incoming traffic. Is there any data that backs like stop signs, like a all stop as being effective? Because as you're approaching.
Oh, sorry.
No, go on.
The most effective data is the accident data, but I will harken back to something Alex said, Alex S. And that, you know, he said it wasn't a speed issue as it was more of a visual, like a geometry of the roadway,
Right.
and being able to see everything properly. You know, that's where I've seen, you know, stop signs on those types of, where you have a geometric issue in the roadway, which creates your visual obstructions, which prevent, you know, adequate sight for the motorists to see what's going on in their surroundings. We can certainly take a look at that. But you know, I've what I've mentioned before is, you know, what happens with stop signs. They're not designed as speed control devices. What winds up happening is people are typically back up to speed in, you know, 100 to 150 feet. And when motorists have a perception that they've lost time because of a stop sign, you know, they actually tend to drive faster when they leave that intersection. So, but again, I think if there's a geometric issue, which is, you know, impinging the visual obstruction, I think that's something to take a look at.
Can I add something, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're talking about adding speed bumps, which I fully support. What I don't understand is why we can't lower the speed limit on side streets and residential streets below 25. I have an example to give you, which is Tammy Mill Road in New Rochelle in the north end. That road runs off of North Avenue from the Hutch, and it runs through the back roads to Quaker Ridge Road. They did a year study with a temporary speed bump in a highly residential neighborhood, much like Harbor Heights. And now they have a permanent speed hump there with a flashing sign for them to lower their speed. And the speed limit is 10 miles an hour. So for the safety and for the quality of life of neighborhoods like mine, like all of ours, like Harbor Heights, there are ways that we can figure out how to find a medium ground and find different alternatives and to couple and use different community studies to help foster what we need to do. Nothing is an impossibility, and 25 miles an hour on a side road is far too fast for anybody to make an appropriate stop. By the time they stop, the damage is going to be done, especially going up a hill, because you're picking up speed to go up that hill. None of this is an impossibility. I see it done. I drive it. I see it. It's being done all around us. You know, I hopefully would see our speed limits lower than 25 miles an hour is very fast. It's very fast for a side street. Very fast that you're allowed to do 25 miles an hour on an incline. You're topping 25 miles an hour by the time you hit the top of the road. I mean, those are items that we could suggest, and we can couple with our neighbors, asking New Rochelle, Larchmont, Harrison, Mamaroneck. I mean, you could Google Earth Tamman Mill Road and see the speed hump there, and it's working because it was used as a cut through, and pretty quick cut through. And it reminds me of what's happening in the Heights right now, and how the neighbors fight to have that happen for them, and it has. And their speed limit's down to 10 miles an hour, and it's enforced. Is that something that we could possibly do as a pilot, as an inclusion? When you say there's a possible pilot program, can those steps be implemented to lower the rate of speed?
Well, I think the pilot program that the board asked us to set up was strictly dealing with speed humps on selected roads. We weren't asked to look at whether we could lower speeds additionally. What was that road again? You said I knew it.
Tamman Mill Road, TAMYMIL. It's in the north end of New Rochelle. It runs right off of North Avenue, where the Hutch is, and it cuts straight through to Quaker Ridge Road. Halfway through there is a permanent speed hump. The speed has been lowered to 10 miles an hour. There was a temporary speed hump there for over a year.
So I think, oh, sorry, Laura, go on.
No, I was a culprit in that myself, driving down that road until, I realized that, let me just take the main artery because we're infringing on somebody's neighborhood, and obviously the speed bump is there. So it cultured me to go into a different direction, but to see the finality of it, and that the community made sure that this happened for their children, for their neighborhood, and for, a street that was probably never on the map before we had the ability to, Google map anything or use MapQuest to use it as a cut through. And children can now cross the street safely, walk to school, walk to synagogue, go to wherever they need to go. And their rate of speed has been reduced because it's a street, it's like driving through the Heights, and take a ride through it. You can see what the comparison is. But my point is that 25 miles an hour is not in stone. And when you're topping to the top of a hill at and you're allowed to drive 25 miles an hour, you're way past that by the time you hit the top.
I was just trying to check out the street view, and I think that may have been installed after the most recent street view, so I don't see it.
Yeah, and it's not a bump, it's a hump.
No, I did, no, I was looking at the, again, I was looking at the entirety of Town Mill Road in New Rochelle.
And
But
they have installed a permanent pole, you know, with flashing sign that says what your rate of speed is and you need to slow down 10 miles an hour.
you know, it looks like they last took street level photography in 2018, so I think it might have been installed after that, so I can't, I don't see it here.
I'll grab some pictures so you can see.
Well, I think, I mean, we've had some great conversation. We have a lot of business to cover and a lot of attendees also here. I think a couple takeaways. One, Chris is going to be kind enough. He's going to be able to pull some accident data in that area so that we can quantify some of what the folks in the neighborhood are seeing. Two, we have a potential for submitting this area into the pilot program for the speed hump program that we have going on. Three, given the nature and kind of the geometric positioning of how this road comes up on the approach, we have the possibility of putting in stop signs, or it makes more sense to potentially put a stop sign here and establish all-way stoppage. And four, we can explore, look further about, you know, how rigid the rules are or law is as far as having 25-mile-an-hour speeds within residential areas. I agree with Laura. I mean, at the minimum, we should challenge it, or at least make the recommendation that we should be more flexible as far as limiting speeds within residential areas, even if it's a law. Like, I think it's our responsibility to, you know, look out for the safety and well-being of everyone in the public, and just because it's a law doesn't make it right. So I think those are the four major takeaways. I think from there, I think we should move on to the rest of the business. And I know we'll have another meeting in 2 weeks, but we can continue the dialogue.
Can
And
you hear me?
yep,
Hello?
we can hear you, Lou.
I'm trying, hang on. Oh, come on.
So we have those four
Okay,
takeaways. Is anyone
All right, hang on 1
opposed to,
second there.
is anyone opposed to moving on to the next
Oh,
item of business?
Get going, damn it.
I just wanted to say, I think the stop sign at the top of Knollwood and Crown Court that I visited myself should be the #1 takeaway from this discussion. That's all. I think it'd be done. It could be done a little quicker than
Some of the others.
some of the others. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. I mean, I'm looking at that. I mean, there's so many factors that amplify people's speeds, whether it's the hill, whether it's the road leading up Mamaroneck Avenue, coming up the highway. Like, there's countless things. And the fact that you have a dead end that's opening up into this major thoroughfare without a stop sign or really anything aside from a children at play, I think is just unacceptable. So. All right. Well, thank you, John, Katie, Juan, Alex. Thank you for taking the time out of your evening to speak with us. We appreciate it. And thank you, Robert, for heading over there. I myself, I'm going to make an effort to go over there as well. You know, the rest of the commission, please feel free to check it out if you're unfamiliar with that area.
I have an advantage over you guys. I'm retired.
That's okay. And we appreciate that. Your time is just as important as everyone else's. So we appreciate that. I think, you know, we've had this, like, we might as well move on. I know a lot of folks are on the line, so.
Oh, I can't get back to this goddamn thing.
Yeah.
It's okay, Lou.
I don't know.
I'm gonna-
You might want to just mute him.
Yeah,
Thanks, Dan. Just working down the list as far as people that we have on the line, like, let's give those people a chance. I know a lot of people are balancing things like childcare, et cetera. So, Dan, if you wouldn't mind, could you promote Elizabeth Good to panelist? Hi, Liz.
Yes, I'm on. You hear me?
Hey, how's it going?
Well, thank you guys for inviting us back to speak about Mamaroneck Community Nursery School, and to Brian and Robert, who both came out this past, I guess it was last week, and took a look at our situation as well. I know we spoke to the committee about this back in December, but we were hoping to get a stop sign by the nursery school on Tompkins Avenue where students cross every day. As we originally mentioned, there are about 140 kids at the school, and there's a morning 8 a.m. arrival time, there's an 11:30 arrival time and dismissal time, and then there's a 2:45 arrival and dismissal time. And we have a lot of children who walk, and we've seen some pretty dangerous situations with drivers who drive quite quickly in front of the school. And there is currently a crosswalk in front of the school and a stop sign that says yield to pedestrians, but it's not an official stop sign. So the directors of the preschool were hoping for official stop sign or some acknowledgement of children at play, anything to get drivers to go slower and to recognize that there will be small children. And unfortunately, it's usually our youngest children who tend to be in the 2-year-old range crossing the street.
Thank you, Liz. And, you know, as you mentioned, I had a chance to head over there a couple days ago and was able to see the experience firsthand with, you know, our little friends within the community, nursery school. And even though it was raining, I mean, you know, it was apparent what kind of the issues and challenges that you saw, even in spite of the fact that, you know, the traffic may be reduced with the bridge closure towards the end of the road. A couple things that I've noticed was that crossing diagonally there. So in that intersection leading up to the nursery school, there's a crosswalk only on one of the corners, when in fact the other corner, like, it's arguably safer to cross at because it's not as close to the driveway from the nursery school, and there's no crosswalk over there. I saw a number of folks just, you know, either crossing on that side or crossing diagonally just to get across the street and out of harm's way. Further, on that side of the street approaching the nursery school, that same stop for pedestrian sign was difficult to even see, let alone adhere to. You know, when I was there, there was a large GMC truck that was parked really like right in front of the stop for pedestrian signs, which inherently is a difficult to interpret sign when you're driving a motor vehicle and trying to understand, you know, what exactly it means. Like, as a motorist, does it mean I stop? Does it mean I stop for pedestrian? Like, what do I actually do here? But even seeing that sign was difficult. I saw cars just frequently speed through anyway. That was the most frequent occurrence. Like, and we're talking large trucks, large vans, especially in the morning when, you know, more of the folks driving like the utility vans and pickup trucks are more likely to be out and heading to work. So I saw a number of those types of vehicles just speed through the intersection. And I also saw a lot of confusion from people. I saw cars that were looking to quote unquote do the right thing and then weren't necessarily sure because, you know, as in a previous meeting we discussed, is the fact that the sign is difficult to make sense of in and of itself. And then if nobody's there, are you supposed to stop? Am I not supposed to stop? Like, really, what are we supposed to be doing here? So I agree with what Liz and, you know, I'm sure Robert may have observed the same, but those are some of the things that I saw. Robert, you have any comments from what you saw firsthand?
I have two things to say. One, Dan brought up earlier, a couple of months ago, about the hatched pattern narrowing the street. He thought that might be add a safety issue. The other thing is that Laura, one of the administrators there, pointed out to me that as cars are going up Tompkins from the parking, you know, from the Phillips parking lot, and they get to the point where the children are walking across the crosswalk, cars stop to allow the children to cross. She mentioned that cars behind them that have stopped don't understand why the car in front of them has stopped and try to go around them. So as they're going around them fast, that's where the safety for the children occurs. Because the cars behind them don't see what's ahead. They just want to get where they're going. I don't know what the solution to that is, but that was pointed out to me as something that happens often and is a real danger.
Dan, can you promote Laura to panelist?
Hi, thank you so much. Just wanted to chime in. I'm partners with Liz on this. And yeah, just wanted to say that I had firsthand seen a very close accident that was just described. What happens is the first car is doing what it should be doing, and the car behind him is very confused, and it's kind of difficult. Prior to that, there will be a sign that does show pedestrians walking a couple, I would say maybe half a block forward. But at that actual intersection, if we had a big sign that said children crossing somewhere right there, I could see that those cars that were second in line wouldn't be confused and would therefore know this is why this car is stopped. But I have seen a car pull around really quickly and have a near miss with like a 2-year-old and their parent. And it was, I think, one of the catalysts for us writing in.
I think, we talk about maybe like high visibility signage, like in a very, large and a very obnoxiously bright color or something like that.
Yeah, I think that would be great. And we loved the hash. Right now, the crosswalk is a little faded. And we thought that your shading idea would be great. And then just even like someone had mentioned that something yellow always helps. So if we could have signage on either side that just says children crossing, there is slight elevation right there. And then there also is always a ton of cars parked alongside because there's an apartment building there. So it's street parking. So it's just so much of a visibility issue, really.
Thanks, Laura. Does anyone
Thank
on
you.
the commission have any thoughts? Yeah, so Dan, I have a couple of ideas. I mean, I think for one, I think those signs for the stop for pedestrians, I mean, I would be in favor of converting those to regular stop signs. Secondly, the signage as far as notifying drivers that there's a school or whatever language we want to use on the signs in the approaches to the school. So like in yellow, just notifying them what's coming. And then thirdly, whether it's with the hatch pattern within the street or some sort of constriction on the lanes to slow people down, I would honestly be in favor of all three of them. But curious for what other people think.
I do see that there is a Mr. Grant who also has his hand raised. I don't know if it's on this item or not.
Let's promote him to panelist, and if it's on a different item, then we can put him back to attendee.
Okay.
Grant is from North Barry and
Okay.
Yes, hello, everyone. This is Tim Grant. I'm a neighbor on the call for the North Barry item, but as I live in this very neighborhood, I just wanted to voice support for the stop signs on this street because we have a very similar issue on North Barry on my block where we have an existing crosswalk. We have signs saying children at play. We have signs instructing drivers to yield to pedestrians in the crosswalk, yet nonetheless, none of those are respected. None of those do the trick. So based on my experience on my street and knowing this exact intersection well, knowing the school well, I just wanted to voice support as a neighbor for the stop sign proposal.
Thanks, Tim.
You're welcome.
Dan, can we make those recommendations? Do you have any qualms with?
I mean, I think I can certainly, see what's available in the manual of uniform traffic control devices. I have to imagine that signage specific to nursery schools, there's got to be some pretty good signage in there. And that would just be a recommendation to, the village staff, because that wouldn't require board action. Thing with the hatching, that would be the same, would just be that's not a regulatory item, so the village could look at that. I mean, if there's a request for a stop sign, that does require board approval. Again, I always try to harken back to what the accident data shows, because I think what you see is, and I think when you have people stopping, you may have an uptick in rear end collisions. But I think you'd want, that would be a recommendation that comes from the traffic commission to the board of trustees, because it does require board approval.
Well, I think we have the precedent. We have the signs there already. Right?
The law in New York State is you have to yield to pedestrians in the crosswalk, no matter what side of the crosswalk they're on. So that's something that you can, that's something that's a violation regardless. Even if we didn't have the sign there and you had a crosswalk, that's still a violation. It is a warning sign that you're supposed to, technically you're supposed to yield, but stop is, I have no problem with that signage myself. But and that's not a regulatory sign, because that's something that's enforceable through state law.
And Dan, this wasn't broached, but what about a crossing guard on that corner?
On the by the school.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, that's more of a operational decision for the village to look at. I mean, it requires a dedication of funds. I for the most part, and maybe someone else can speak to it. I think, are most of the children using that crosswalk accompanied by a parent? But I can't imagine that. I mean, and we do have crosswalks in other locations.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, I mean, we have hundreds and hundreds of intersections in the village. We just can't have a crossing guard at every single intersection. Plus, I think I don't know what the hours are for the school. There's a level of complexity to deploying school crossing guards.
Noted. All right, can we start with a recommendation of the signage, like in accordance with what the manual for traffic safety specifies for nursery schools or younger children in general, as well as like the street hatching? And then I think the stop sign, perhaps we table it temporarily.
This is Elizabeth Good. I just had one other point. We had wondered if we would be able to, during school drop off and pick up hours, put one of those yellow, children crossing signs or stop signs like in the middle of the crosswalk to slow people down, if that would be legal, if we could speak to the police about it, or if that would be something that would be an option as well.
Dan, we were trading emails on this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's the village's crosswalk, so we would have to make decisions on that. The one issue I would have with giving someone else permission to put something in the crosswalk is, if you forget to bring it in one day, I would feel there's a very large likelihood it would get hit. It could damage something. It would be knocked over onto the curb. There could be issues with that. We do have some of those signs in the village center along Mamaroneck Avenue. And I think in some other locations, but it's kind of a narrow roadway. I don't know if you have enough space to really safely accommodate something like that. And like I said, I'm concerned about the safety of a sign like that, because I could just see it getting knocked all over the place.
Understood.
Yeah. But, like I said, children at play, I think is, we talked about, children at play on Knollwood. Yeah, and that's one of the problems that you see with signs, and we're gonna, children at play signs are supposed to be located around playgrounds, because that's where children are playing. In residential neighborhoods, it should be understood that, children are playing in their yards. But, that's one of those signs that tends to get overused and misplaced. But I think the horse is out of the barn on that one, the proper application and how it should be used.
Let's start with like to see what type of signs would make sense to notify drivers, whether it's children play or, as you said, for nursery school might be well covered with something with strong verbiage, and the street constriction or hatching, however it's done.
Yeah, I like the high visibility signage, because it's going to stay cleaner longer. It's more noticeable than a white sign or a yellow sign. But I'll see what type of options there are.
Okay. And this might be a little bit, we didn't discuss this, but what about, the speed hump in the approach coming up to the intersection? So like that street has a pretty long runway until you actually reach the entrance of the school.
It might be an appropriate location. They're not really designed to be on certain roads that carry significant traffic, or designed to carry traffic from one major road to another. Because that's, those are going to be the streets that are most frequented or most used by emergency services that need to get quickly from point A to point B. Tompkins is not that road. It's not designed to be that road. Now, especially with the Tompkins Avenue Bridge being out, there's even less propensity for some of that type of traffic.
Okay. Let's start with a couple of these items, and we'll still have this on the docket for business. Anyone else have any input? Or Liz, Laura, any thoughts that you guys have? Anything further?
No, just a thank you again for looking into this for us, and we appreciate it.
Yes, and if we can do anything to help, like if there's, a video we could take, or if you want someone to sit there during the day and monitor it, and kind of report back, I mean, we're so willing and ready to help in any way we can to make this better for the kids. So just, you can count on us to do any of that on the side.
Ryan.
Sorry, Jess.
All good. No, thank you, Laura. Thank you, Liz. No, I saw it firsthand. I think Robert saw it as well, the situation. So we will help. All right, we have Deirdre on the line. Thanks for hanging with us, Deirdre. If you don't mind promoting her, Dan.
Yep.
Hi, Deirdre.
I'm sorry. I just was joining it late. I live around the corner from Crown Court, and I was just wanted to, I don't know if you're still talking about that issue yet, but I just wanted to say that I agree that we could definitely use a stop sign there.
No, thanks, Deirdre. We agree. We have a couple of action items to follow up on, including stop signs and investigating the speed limit, perhaps an entrance into the pilot program for a speed hump, and better signage. We have a couple things in motion. We covered that. We covered that for like the first hour. So thank you for
I
dialing in. though.
apologize. I joined a
It's
little
all good.
late. But thank you very much for considering all that.
Bye-bye.
Thank
All
you.
And then I think just the other folks on there, like we have we have a new attendee because Ryan, he is I think he was demoted to attendee. Alex, he spoke on the Crown Court. Lou, I believe he might have been demoted as well from Dan. But
I think Mr. Trifoletti was about South Barry Avenue. And
okay,
I can't, Guyan Drive, I think.
cool. You mind promoting him, Dan?
Absolutely.
Hi, thanks for listening to my submission here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. Yeah, submitting something about South Barry Avenue and Guyan Drive. This is the intersection right before the South Barry Avenue Bridge, which you can see the harbor from. And there's a few traffic issues there. Basically, what I'm looking for is no parking signs near the intersection. What happens here, the South Barry, as you know, is a steep hill, and Guyan Drive on the western part of the intersection that leads into my street is very narrow. So coming down the hill and making a right-hand turn, if there's cars parked before the intersection, is very difficult to make that turn. It's like a 60-degree angle between South Barry and Guyan. So it's not really a 90-degree turn. It's kind of like it's a sharp turn. So if there's a car parked on South Barry, it's very difficult to make the right-hand turn onto Guyan Drive, which makes it even more difficult. The street is so narrow, and a lot of the people that go fishing and gardeners and even the residents park on Guyan Drive. You really have to inch your way onto Guyan Drive off of South Barry. So there's a problem with getting potentially rear-ended from cars speeding down South Barry Avenue. The other problem here is when you're making a left-hand turn onto South Barry from Guyan western side, if there's a car parked on South Barry, it really can't see the cars coming down the hill. And you have to inch your way out and to make that left-hand turn. Now, there is a no parking sign on this intersection. It's between the bridge and Guyan Drive, and nobody parks there. But that no parking sign is in the wrong spot. It should be going uphill where, it's difficult to make that turn, and it's difficult to go into the street because it's so narrow. And there's two intersections into my neighborhood. One is Stewart and South Barry, and then the other is Guyan Drive. Guyan Drive is very narrow, like I said, it's the width of two cars, but the one on Stewart and South Barry is probably double the width, and it has no parking signs on all the corners. So I'm just asking for no parking on South Barry between the house driveway and Guyan Drive, and then some type of no parking sign on Guyan Drive before the intersection. Especially when there's people fishing, it's very tough to get around that intersection. But there's never any cars parked between Guyan and the bridge.
Go for it, Robert.
This came up last year. Mr. Trifoletti, you the person that brought this up last year?
Right. You had a 3
Okay,
month,
that's fine. I'm gonna try to solve your problem. I think there's a simple solution. There's not a lot of parking on that street. To remove a couple of parking spaces, I don't see that as a big problem. If that's gonna make life easier, not gonna cost anything, let's do it.
Yeah, that's great.
That's my suggestion.
I agree with Robert. The only thing I think we'd probably want representation from other folks that live in close proximity to there, like the surrounding houses? Just
Yes,
to,
We have about 45 people in the homeowners, the homeowners association. So how would you like to hear from them?
Dan, in the past, like when you've mentioned, let's say, I remember there was an issue on, I think it might have even been North Barry with respect to visibility. And we had a homeowner approach us and talk about removing parking, and then may have ended up being a bigger situation in which the voices of the other residents weren't necessarily heard. Like, do you have a recommended approach? Like, would it be like a petition or just dialing to meeting or writing to us? Like, what would you recommend?
Yeah, I think there's two approaches. The first is we could just, say, we're considering, we can, identify neighbors within X number of feet and say, we're considering something. What are your, the traffic commission is going to meet on this date. If you want to attend to get your thoughts, this is what you do. The second approach, and I think if there's an organized homeowners association, it may be better to have them kind of do that legwork for us, because they do have, and I don't know, Trifoletti, how organized and active your neighborhood association is.
Yeah, it's close, and we have an upcoming meeting.
Yeah.
So that's easy to discuss and show the people.
Yeah, that may be a better approach. I think also because it may be more of a sense of buy-in and community, getting the community stakeholders involved.
Sure,
at the
I agree.
grassroots. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I
Not
agree with
going,
that.
Steve?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That's a good suggestion.
Yeah, I agree with Robert. Like, this is low hanging fruit, and if it's gonna make things safer and like more convenient, like, let's just do it.
As just one item, and there is a stop sign on Guyon Drive as you approach South Berry Avenue. By law in New York State, unless it's otherwise signed or metered, you cannot park within 15 feet of a stop sign. And we don't
Enforce
put
it.
a sign up.
Yeah.
Well, we can enforce it, but we're not going to sign every single stop sign with that. But it is one of those other items in New York State vehicle and traffic law that we do have in our back pocket.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Then I'll talk to the president and the board. We do have an upcoming meeting. I can have them put something together and submit it to you in letter form. And I'm sure we have letterhead on our association.
Here, you could email it, whatever is more convenient.
Yeah.
You're
Sure.
taking this on. So thanks, Stephen.
Yeah.
Like, we agree with you. Just want to make sure that
Yeah.
we don't step outside, like someone may have a qualm for a
I
legitimate reason.
agree. There's a new resident that lives on that corner, so I fully agree.
All right, cool.
Okay, good. Yeah, thanks for your time, and I'll handle it from this side and get it to you as soon as possible.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
I think that covers all of the public items. So we can just shift back to the new business, and I think this should go pretty quickly, as I know Dan had some comments on a few of these, including we'll start with the Fenimore Road. Let me bring up the email from Dan.
Where on Fenimore Road are we talking about in this case?
I was the one who brought up the agenda item as a resident. Prospect Avenue and Fenimore Road, coming up from Harbor Island, you're going west, I believe, the direction. So there's a hill going up. When you try to cross that street, it's like impossible. You can, when you're looking to the left as the cars are going up, there's a car blocking it, and you cannot see that car. A car coming until pretty close to you. And I know it's
Michael-
not. Was that the correct place that you were
Yeah,
talking about?
it's the Fenimore Prospect intersection.
Yes.
If you want, I told you about what we're doing, we are.
Yeah,
doing-
I have the notes, so there's not much room for discussion.
Well, but what I'll do just to, for the commission's edification is I will forward you all a copy of the initial analysis done by our traffic engineer, and I can send you a copy of the 60% design plans to show you how we're effectuating it. But like I mentioned, we're trying to see if we can use some existing contracts that we have in place, so we can use them with their pricing, because I imagine it could pretty much be the same, what we call bid unit items. So we can shave some time off and not have to go out to a public bid process, because we already did for this type of work. And it was for a sidewalk replacement that we're looking to do on Waverly Avenue between the Sheldrake River and Mamaroneck Avenue is one contract.
Dan, the project you're considering on Fenimore, is this the one that's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars?
No, I think the estimate was somewhere around $90,000. But what I did was I provided a copy of the bid award for that Waverly Avenue sidewalk job to our traffic engineer, and I asked him to compare the bid units to see. I was seeing Ryan there.
Yeah.
To compare the bid unit items to see what works and how or what the pricing would be based on that. So I think they're soon to finish the 100% design, and I should have that relatively soon. Like I said, I will forward a copy of the initial report and the 60% design plans to you guys.
So just so I understand that contract or that you have with that company, does that include a stop sign for that spot at corner, or are you talking about reconfiguring the whole intersection at Prospect Avenue and Fenimore? And I was just looking for the usual stop sign like everyone else in the
No, I
in the
think
neighborhood.
it's going to eliminate some of the parking, build what we call a bulb out. So it'll be an extension of the curb. So it'll actually make the crosswalk shorter in distance. And because you're narrowing the width of the roadway, that should have the effect of also slowing the traffic down.
Okay, great. So it's a big project, and
yep,
I'm good. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right, cool. So the next item is the recommendation or joint recommendation rather from the fire and police departments on the issue for the French American School in Ralph Ave. Andrew or Chris, do you want to kick things off or comment on this?
Chris, go ahead.
All right, I can speak because I sent a letter from the fire department as well. Yeah, it's an issue because at any time you can have 150 cars there at a standstill. I mean, it's insane. I was there the one day and I didn't know what to do with people. So the major issue, as I think Lieutenant Gaddis sent to you guys, was to make Ralph Avenue one way all the way coming off a new. Then that also would be able to free up, get those buses out of there, because I sent a photo. You can have anywhere from 4 to 7 buses there in 15, 20 minutes that are picking up for the French American. Then move them up to Monsignor Goodwine, or Underhill, as you would call it. And I monitored for 3 weeks those parking spaces on Underhill. They're all employees of the French American School. So some days they park there, and then some days they park in the parking lot. So I was able to figure that out when I ran the plates and everything. So I think it's an easy fix if we can get it. I know Matt had spoke with Lieutenant Gaddis, and I don't know if he talked to you, Dan, and he suggested the same thing. I think it was discussed in the past.
Yep. No,
well, they did the project before.
Yeah, I had Lieutenant Gaddis met with Matt Carmody, our traffic engineer, reviewed everything. I think Matt is supportive of it, and he agrees with that approach. So if that becomes a recommendation of the Traffic Commission, I can write up some of those regulatory changes for the Board of Trustees.
No, I'm in favor of it. I think perhaps we should notify the folks on the block too of the proposed change, just as a heads up. But like if, you know, the police department, the fire department, the traffic engineer, like, I'm not sure. Seems
Yeah, I
like
mean-
a pretty good consensus.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think,
can add to, sorry, Dan, I can add to speaking with some of the neighbors. I mean, obviously they would be excited because, you know, a fire truck can get down the road. Maybe if we, shuffle a little, get those buses out of there. When the bus is there, you can't get anything down there. So fire truck would end up pushing cars out of the way. I mean, people in cars picking up kids will move, but it's just insane. But I think a couple of people are on board with it because they were just afraid that, we have one party that lives down in the corner, Gertrude and Ralph, that a young woman that had a heart attack or stroke, if we can't get to her, if she has another one, I mean, there is no way getting her. Even if you came in Gertrude the wrong way, forget about it. So I think the neighbors, yeah, we can inform them. I think they'd be on board with it anyway. I
Yeah,
spoke to about 4 of them.
yeah, and for Officer Jaeger information, I think for Brian, you may have spoken with Tina Maresca, who is I think she's now the chair of the Safe Routes to School Committee. She lives in this area. I think she might be familiar with some of the things we're discussing. I think I may have mentioned it to her as well when I put you in connection with her.
No, thanks for that, Dan. I'm gonna see her, I believe it's next week, next Wednesday. So,
Okay. Yeah, I'll probably be there.
all right, thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Chris.
The other thing I'd like to do is just to back Chris up with this also, the probability of a emergency with the fire department. Please just take into consideration next month, which is only a week and a half away, is 1 year after we had a second alarm building fire right at that corner. And we needed access immediately, rapidly. Thank God we had no injuries, but we did have heavy damage to the building. We were able to stop the fire. And exactly what Chris said, vehicular access for the fire equipment was imperative. This was 10 o'clock in the morning. If that changed by 2 hours, you could have had some serious issues of getting fire apparatus, hose, water, ladder trucks, getting us in place right away. And the building was an occupied structure that, once again, thank God everyone was out safely and we were able to do our job expediently and rapidly and safely.
The history of fire apparatus over the last 100 years is that they aren't getting smaller.
No, they're getting a little bit bigger, unfortunately.
Yeah. So
Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Thank you. And then the last item of new business is the Harmon Drive and Rockland Avenue. And Dan, you commented on this one of the fact that at least like the intersection falls on both jurisdictions between the town and the village, but anything you want to cover there?
well, I mean, there were two separate items. First was the truck traffic on Harmon. And there are already restrictions on the town of Mamaroneck side where they prohibit truck traffic in excess of 5 tons. Ours is more stringent. We actually say no truck traffic at all. But except for local deliveries. The second item was, a sidewalk on Rockland. I think I mentioned some of the, we do have some site ownership issues along Rockland Avenue. But again, there's also, priorities with other sidewalk projects that we're looking at right now between, the improvements in and around Mamaroneck Avenue School, improvements along Old Post Road, Orienta in Washingtonville, along Old White Plains Road. So, I mean, we could certainly look at it and add to the capital plan, but, it would be prioritized with several other of those initiatives. And that was part of the memo that I did provide to you, the draft memo about some of the capital costs that, we're looking at over the next several years if, there's a commitment to fund these projects.
But go for it, Robert.
Dan, we've had a lot of discussion about Rockland Avenue, starting from Waverly, where there's no sidewalk, it's curved street, very hazardous for kids walking to school, going all the way down Rockland through to the town center and the high school. You recommended some suggestions to trying to clean up that area. Clearly, it's never going to be a real safe location, but we're going to try to do what we can to make it safer. Where are we in terms of some of your recommendations or suggestions about that whole, starting from Waverly all the way down to the town center on Rockland?
Well, I think you already, you do have sidewalks on the, I guess it would be the south side of.
No, not on Rockland, from Waverly to
the bridge, we don't.
Palmer Terrace.
Yeah,
No,
no,
there's
no,
no
but
sidewalks there.
Well, you mentioned the town center. So I was
Right.
just,
Okay.
thinking of the section between, adjacent to Sarah Newman. I think
Correct.
there are sidewalks over there.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. Again, I mean, this is something we can, start having our engineer look at to prepare a conceptual plan and estimates. But again, it would be something that we'd have to look at in the context of a long-term capital plan and what are the priorities for sidewalks. I think we've identified, the implementation of projects associated with the Mamaroneck Avenue School walking assessment as priorities. We've already received grant funding. We're going to apply for more grant funding in future years. Part of that, we also looked at improvements along Old White Plains Road, which we have not started any conceptual work on yet because we're waiting for several items to free up, which included the completion of their bridge project last year that the Thruway was doing, and kind of a return to a post-COVID traffic pattern to get accurate traffic data. We also have the implementation of the Rhinebeck walking assessments. We've applied for grant funding to replace the sidewalks on Halsted Avenue. Then there was, the creation or the installation of a sidewalk on Old White Plains Road to connect, the kids walking from Orienta to the high school and the middle school. I could certainly ask for some proposals and, see what it costs to initiate that work, but ultimately, again, it would be something that have to be prioritized in and among all the other sidewalk projects that we're looking at.
One more thing.
Yep.
The reason we have trustees as liaisons to our committees is that as we discuss things that we think are in the interest of the village, our liaison trustee can have that discussion with the Board of Trustees if there's anything they can do to move these things along. So I'm hoping that Lou will, as he listens to some of these things, will try to pass on to the Board of Trustees things that they may be able to get done to solve some of these problems.
We have a full plate, and you got to forgive me. I'm in two simultaneous meetings here, so I'm a little distracted. The can you give me a list of those things that you want me to talk to them about?
Yeah. So
Right, who's taking the notes?
Michael is.
Michael,
You're not listening?
I'm
I
listening.
am taking the
half
notes.
of
It's just, right now, we're just looking for you. Right now, we're just looking for a push toward looking at a project on Harmon Drive, the road between Harmon Drive and Rockland Avenue, and to see if that project will be
I see. Okay.
prioritized along with the other projects.
All right.
Yeah. And
There's an email. What is it?
And it's never it's always cheaper to go forward as we but I have a question. Had to go backwards. My mic wasn't working earlier. So please forgive me. I just had a question and comment for Dan about the Prospect Avenue Fenimore crossing. Can you, I live right at Monroe, at Heathcote Avenue in Monroe at that corner. So obviously I walk across that street every day, crossing Fenimore. It's definitely, we're happy that neighbors are very happy it's going to be improved. But what, that's already budgeted?
It's in the
Back that
capital.
onto a grant, another contract. And what do you think realistically is the ETA on something like that?
It's been expressed that this is a priority to get this done, which is why we are asking some of our existing contractors with contracts with us to, get us pricing. I think what I've heard from the board is they want to see this implemented, not in, many months, in, very few months. to get this.
Okay,
So-
thanks. Sorry. And I would have asked that when it was, at the right, moment, but my
Oh.
mind was off. Sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like I said, what I'll do is, in case you have not seen this, I will forward a copy of the original report and the 60% design plans. So you can take a look at what we're.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
So going back to your question, Lou, if you take a look at an email from March 18th, there's a very heartfelt email from Ina Meltzer that just describes, I think, perfectly the situation.
I remember that, yes.
That just really describes it. So I guess the commission was thinking about putting that as a priority. Am I correct about that, guys?
So, well, do you want to, do you have a recommendation you'd like the board to consider, or you're just asking us to look at it separately?
I don't know.
Because you guys evaluate it and then you send it to us and then we'll examine it. But
I don't know the process.
you think it's an emergency, right? Hmm?
No, I don't know if it's an emergency. I mean, Dan's mentioned at least, I don't know, 10 different projects in the capital plan that have been established and are priorities. So I'm not sure where this particular project lies. I mean, it's at its infancy because we still need a conceptual look at it. And it's a big thing to put sidewalks in. So I think Dan, at this point, we're just going to ask the engineers to take a look at it conceptually. That's where we're at. Correct, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, I'll ask them for a proposal to do a conceptual analysis, and which would involve, things like traffic counts, pedestrian counts, analysis of maybe some minor survey work.
And forgive me, this is a capital program?
Yeah, this would have to be a capital project, Lou, because it's this is it will be a sidewalk project along Waverly Avenue. I'm sorry, Rockland Avenue.
And right now we don't have priorities on the capital programs, do we?
Well, we do prioritize projects.
Yes, staff does, right?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, not to put the pressure on the elected officials, but you set policy, we implement policy.
Right. That's one of the problems with, and just for the rest of you, we've had a trouble getting the board to focus on prioritizing this. We're trying to do that, and I will bring it up again. The capital projects have not been prioritized except by the staff, so we need to tackle it.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you. And thank you, Dan. We appreciate it. We know there's a lot involved, a lot of priorities, so totally get it.
Yep.
So that covers the old business, and we touched on a bunch of the old business as well, including the aforementioned Crown Court. If we just quickly go through, and we could wrap things up in the next 15 minutes. The old business with the West Street and the stop sign. I know Michael and I, we were trying to get together and walk the area. I've been in that area, I've walked that area, quite frankly, with my dog, but I have not set aside like stringent time towards examining the car situation over there. We did ask the resident that wrote in to dial into the meeting. He wasn't able to attend, but what we could do is follow up with him again, and have him dial into the April meeting just to speak to his experience, unless someone on the line did have a chance to walk the area and pay attention to traffic.
I can speak to it. I mean, first of all, in the last month's minutes, it looked like there was consensus that it was more enforcement. More enforcement was needed as opposed to putting another stop sign. But I did drive up and down like 5 times. And I used to live around on the corner of Henry Avenue, and I walked it. And basically, you know, Mr. DeVito requested 2 stop signs. I would right away say, definitely not 2 stop signs, because he wanted one on Henry Avenue, like 1 block away from Park Avenue. So the only other place I would even think about having a stop sign would be at Rose Avenue. And that would be right after a sign that already says, you know, the curve sign, whatever that logo is, and it says slow to 20 miles an hour. So that to me seems like it's good enough. I don't know, like Dan's been saying, to put another stop sign there, I don't know how much that's going to do. Plus you're going uphill, so they're not going to, you know, on the other way going east is like 1 or 2, there's like 2 stop signs more. There's 2 more stop signs, but that's going downhill. So I think when you're going uphill, it's a factor as well. But again, you know, I don't know if it's necessary. And then plus the accident report, according to the minutes last month, there was maybe 1 accident in the past 5 years. And that was more like an arrest for DUI. Wasn't an actual crash accident. So again, the corner where the stop sign I would consider, or the commission consider, is right next to the slow and curvy sign. So I'm leaning against it. I don't know, Brian, if you saw the same thing or not.
Sorry, I was on mute there. I know what you're talking about. I think it makes sense to at least slow down traffic, you know, and then part of me leans back towards like the commentary on how stop signs don't necessarily slow people down. As far as enforcement is concerned, how would we make that recommendation? I guess I would lean on Chris for that one. Like, would we put in a request through this channel, or kind of how would we do that?
Now I'm looking on the old business. It says West Street stop sign.
Yeah.
Whereabouts is it again? It's Rose Ave or Rose Lane?
No, it's a stop. Well, that's a possible place for a stop sign, but the problem is at Park
Nobody's
Avenue
stopping.
and the problem is Park Avenue and West Street.
Park Avenue, West Street.
There's a stop sign that everyone rolls through
Oh,
because
at the top of the hill? Okay, I get it.
top of the hill, because there's no stop sign between Harrison Avenue and what is it? Halsted Avenue.
And Halsted.
No, there's no stop sign between that part on Harrison Avenue and West Street until Park Avenue.
Exactly.
They're saying they're passing through four intersections. There's only one possible area for a stop sign, I think.
Okay, so as far as enforcement, I can bring it back to my lieutenant and forward what you guys, about, getting an officer over there to get people to slow down. If they see the car there enough, then maybe those, pick up on it and stop. We can do that.
Yeah, the enforcement would be by Park Avenue and West Street.
Okay.
I think that's fair. I think it's a good idea as well, and especially in the short term, because there's debate as far as like what stop signs actually do, where to place them, etc. But like one quick solution to like just get present, to get people to at least be thinking to slow down, so present with an officer. So thank you, Chris.
Yeah, I can forward that. Okay, no problem.
There is a slowing. I mean, there's a 20 mile. I mean, as Laura was saying, there's a 20 mile an hour sign there.
There is
20
one
miles an hour on West Street, and then there's that curvy thing.
Yeah.
So there's definitely indication to slow down.
Okay.
As far as I see, but we can hear what Mr. DeVito has to say next month, and he sent a long email with a lot of photos and a lot of explanations. So I'm sure he'll want to speak to it, or we could just tell him no. I don't know how we want to proceed.
We'll give him a chance to speak to it. It's all good.
Okay.
This one we touched on earlier, the Mamaroneck Ave and I-95 ramp with the crossing guard. There's debate as far as like the as far as how many people are actually crossing at that crosswalk, but then admittedly, there's consensus that it's downright dangerous for folks to be walking there, especially kids. This was another one, Michael, where we reached out to the residents that submitted the complaint, asking them to dial in, speak to it. They didn't have a chance to make it, which is fine. We could follow up with them again. But I see plenty of kids passing. I mean, this past weekend, I saw kids crossing through there at night, which was terrifying, to be honest with you. But I can only imagine what it's like if you have young kids that are walking to school along there. But
That was part of Katie Guyette's email. I think she did speak, someone did speak to it.
yeah, it kind of got like interwoven into the.
It was an email. It seemed like one of her emails said maybe 9 kids cross it. I mean, it's hard to. Robert, did you get a chance to take a look at that corner to see how many kids were crossing that on the morning? I don't know
We're
what.
talking about the I-95 exit onto Mamaroneck Avenue?
Exactly.
Yeah, we did talk about that earlier. So I was there from about 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock in the morning. And there were only about half a dozen kids all walking with their parents.
Okay.
I stopped and talked to each one of them. And I think I mentioned that the problem is the cars don't stop for the stop sign. They
No, I
just
remember
roll
that. I was
through.
just wondering how many kids cross. So that's a half a dozen. It's not.
In fact, I asked them, and I think a lot of them drive, and I asked them, why don't they take a bus? Why don't they have a bus? And they told me the buses from the Heights, they're not allowed to have buses. I'm not sure. I didn't quite understand that, but they said
Yeah, I think
you
Mamaroneck
can't
only
use buses there.
I think Mamaroneck only buses for, was it more than a mile and a half away from the school?
Yeah,
Which
Dan, if you're up in
is
the Heights,
basically just- Yeah,
yes, if you're in the Heights, Dan, my 2 children were bused to Homix because we live far enough away. They both attended Mamaroneck Avenue School. We both had to drive them, or like Robert said, walk them down there. There is no
Right.
bus activity for anybody in the Heights because we're too close to the school.
I just remember.
Which is fascinating, Andrew, right?
Yep.
Because, as a parent with a kid at Mamaroneck Avenue School, part of what you and Chris were talking about with the traffic congestion, a mile and a half on a nice day with a 6-year-old might be fun, but on a snow day, it's not
fun.
visible, it's impossible. Can't do it. So this is why everyone's driving, which is leading to this. And as a new resident, I just been here a year now. As a new resident, I guess I was surprised that we didn't have more busing to figure out solutions how to get kids to and from school safely, which would not just address safety concerns, but it would address the congestion that's also contributing to other safety concerns.
Correct. It would cut down on the congestion of Mamaroneck Avenue School alone if they were bused in. Absolutely.
Well, I can speak a little. I remember back in the day with my kids, we walked all the time from up in the Heights. So it's changed, like you were saying, Ryan, 100%, it's changed.
Maybe fewer people walk now because it's dangerous. I mean, like maybe we don't go based on the number of kids that are walking there. Maybe it's the fact that it's accepted as dangerous, and maybe that's should be unacceptable to us. We should be promoting safer.
It's unfortunately it's part of the self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
People don't feel comfortable, so they drive. People don't feel comfortable with the traffic situation, so they drive to school to exacerbate the traffic situation.
Mm-hmm.
Dan, and
guilty as charged.
And for the group, I understand the logistics of getting a crossing guard is probably more difficult than a number of different things, but do we have programs like pilot programs, especially as the weather is getting warmer and more people are going to be walking? Like instead of committing like full time, like could we do like, let's say, a trial run of a crossing guard at the I-95 crosswalk to incentivize people to walk, and then maybe that'll help the situation.
I don't know enough about the personnel complement. I mean, I would hazard a guess that on any given day you may have 1 or 2 crossing guards who are out of work, considering their average age is probably a little bit older than me and some of the other, most of the people on this, all the people on this committee, we'll say. So, and then, I don't want to, I fear creating a false sense of security by having something one day and then not the next. It's just like a little voice in the back of my head. But I really can't speak to the personnel complement.
Yeah, go on, Chris.
All right, so a couple of things we touched on earlier. I can check and see if we can issue the tickets because I'm thinking it's the state troopers stop sign. I can see if we can issue the tickets that can be enforced. Because I've always argued about that. When I was on a bicycle unit years ago, I used to go right up there and write tickets anyway.
Nice.
For the most part, I believe they never came back, but I can ask about that. And then the crossing guard, that's not a good suggestion because the crossing guard's going to get run over. Those people are not looking. And you've seen it, Robert, you said it. They do not look. They start as soon as you come around that bend, they're looking back to the left. So it doesn't matter if there's a Mack truck in front of there, they're going to run into the Mack truck. So forget about a crossing guard.
I was trying to say that. I was trying to say that earlier. It just, you have to put the stop sign back there. Crossing guard risk their life. I mean, people coming up the highway are not used to seeing a crossing guard. I even question, has there ever been a crossing guard by an entrance or an exit to an interstate highway?
No. And like I said, most of the accidents are rear-ended for somebody that actually does stop. And it'll come out on the avenue. We go, patrol car will get there and they say, where was the accident? Oh, it was on the ramp. And the state troopers come and take the report.
And the problem is the cars that are ramming into the cars in front of them, they don't expect the cars in front of them to stop. That's why all these accidents happen.
But
and not to throw a monkey in it, a lot of them are residents. So,
and just to channel Shannon for a second.
Yeah.
The crashes, not the accidents, the crashes.
You're right. We gotta change the word. I'm sorry. Crashes.
But my experience is that most crashes occur at intersections that are controlled in one fashion or another.
Mhm.
You're gonna have the most I can tell you right now that the most crashes we have at intersections are going to be signalized intersections.
Yeah.
And it's not even going to be close.
No, I agree with you on that.
Dan, I think, I mean, this was brought up earlier. I mean, we have no control over the throughway off ramp, right?
I believe that's the case.
Yeah. So I mean, it's almost like it's not a stop sign, but they have those like square reflectors that serve as like dimples that kind of bounce your tires. Something to kind of just let people know, like,
like a rumble strips or something like that.
Yeah, a rumble strip, as a slowdown, because you're not going to brake hard, but maybe they brake soft. I don't know if those. I have no idea if those are effective. And of course, I mean, what do I know? So, but something along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, I think where I've seen like those things before is usually it's on the approach to the stops, an approach to some sort of stop, so that you know it's coming. Like for instance, if you're you cross a bridge and there's a toll, there'll be strips to say, once you hear the sound of your car hitting the strips. Yeah.
Well, this item has been on the agendas the past 3 months. So, I mean, Brian, do you think we could either get it off and say we're not going to follow through with this to the public, or unless Dan, you want to look into Brian's idea, but I don't mean to be like the chairperson, but I've been looking through the minutes, or unless we want to make it an action item to look at how we could slow up the cars off the exit ramp.
Well, I think the action.
Should we keep this on the agendas? I think it's not going to happen. The crossing car is not going to happen.
Well, I think
And
we have a
that's been a
suggestion from
question.
Chris on enforcement, which I think, like, I don't want to be like defeatist and just give up and just be like, well, screw it. It's too dangerous. Kids are going to get hit and cars are going to get into accidents, and sorry. Like,
No, I don't mean that, but I mean the idea of a crossing guard that's been asked, the
yeah,
past
no,
3
I hear
months.
you. I mean, I think that closing it out, I agree on removing it. And kind of like the takeaway is that, you know, we'll work with the police department on enforcing what we can. And like, if it's a bigger problem than that, then, you know, we've had the county executive on the calls before, and like, we could bubble that up and make a recommendation being like, you guys have to do something about this, and we'll use this community feedback as evidence for that. But, and I don't mean telling them like, you mean crossing guard, but just the numbers just don't show it. And like, there's a bigger problem here when it comes to crashes that we're seeing. So. I
And
agree.
it's a safety, yeah, it's a safety concern more so than
Yeah.
number of kids crossing.
I agree, Brian. I think that if you know, we decide to do a enforcement, to say that we're gonna look at this as an enforcement piece. And then if somebody, I don't know if that's you, Dan, if you could just get some clarification, maybe it's Chris, about who kind of owns that exit ramp, like official clarification. I'm pretty sure it's not us.
Yeah.
Thruway Authority.
But if
Thruway
we could
Authority.
just know that, and then we could
Well,
say.
The
you
Thruway
know, we
Authority
have-
definitely owns it. It's the, you know, are we able to enforce a traffic control device
Yeah,
on
traffic control
a
device.
non-village owned road?
Property.
Yeah.
And can we make a case, to the state that something like a rumble strip is needed because there's no way for
Yes.
enforcement
Yeah,
there? I don't know, it's like, that's the kind of stuff I would like to try to do.
Yeah.
Because
Right.
it's local communities speaking to people that have power, and it's like, if we just kind of throw up our hands and say, oh, you know, nobody's gonna listen to us, then
Right.
I don't know if I
Yeah,
want
I
to be on the
mean,
committee.
No, I just meant the crossing guard idea should be
Yeah.
No, it's cool,
out.
Michael. We
That's all,
get it.
that's all I'm trying to say.
No, no.
Yeah, it's not
Let's do
futile.
it.
I think we ask, and I just, you know, Dan, if you can show us the way a couple times, I mean, I would be happy to.
Yeah.
Pick that up.
I'll look into it.
Okay.
Hey,
thanks.
Dan? Hey, Dan?
Yes.
Just a suggestion. I like the rumble idea is a nice idea. Would it be possible that you could reach out to the Mid-Hudson Traffic Director for the New York State Thruway Authority? She's located in Pomona, New York. Her name is Heather Garrison. She oversees everything in safety with the freeway. And the Thruway Authority has their own on-staff engineers. And maybe if you could possibly ask, have they ever tried this technique of putting a rumble strip similar to what all of us, we were all of age, we used to approach toll barriers before they were extinct, had that same rumble. New Rochelle used to have it to make sure you didn't snooze off and doze off and accidentally crash into the toll barrier.
Yeah, I
See if
mean,
she's ever used that any place in the state, or is the state very reluctant and very negative results if they've tried it? I mean, the Thruway Authority covers from here to Buffalo. They've had to try this someplace else.
well,
But I see she's got,
that's kind of what I'm thinking is that,
yeah.
you know,
I mean, she sees everything for safety. Heather does
yeah, I mean,
everything for safety.
I don't think the issues that we deal with in the village of Mamaroneck are unique.
Yes, yeah.
You know, you know, traffic engineering are traffic engineering issues, no matter
Mhm.
where you are, and human behavior is human behavior.
Mhm.
Maybe unless there's something in the water here, but
True, absolutely.
They have those rumble strips up and down 684. So if you veer off to the side of the road, they're in.
Yes,
yeah,
to wake you
Yeah.
up, to avoid crashing.
yeah.
So, I mean, that would be profitable even off the Fenimore Road exit off of the highway. To slow you down instead of somebody blowing right off that exit to the right or to the
Well, I
left.
mean, well, yeah, but the rumble, okay, yeah.
Dan, would a formal request from the board be helpful? I mean, and we could just send them and say, we need something here. What can we do? This is what our traffic commission has suggested.
Well, I think you know, dealing staff to staff is probably the best way to start. If we find that they're intransigent, then, you know, that's when you get elected officials involved, which is what we did with DOT back when George was our state assembly person, to get to finally get them to agree to a speed zone in front of the or school zone in front of the high school.
Yeah, we've got some other issues with that property they own there, so perhaps it wouldn't be bad to open up a line of communication, but let us know how it goes with the staff to staff.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, everyone.
Mhm.
Dan, the Claflin Avenue, I think this one, there was some information perhaps on one of the board meetings.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm gonna schedule a meeting with DPW to confirm the measurements, and if I need to, ask the board to revise that resolution, I will, but I want to confirm everything in the field with DPW.
All right, thanks for that. That follows up like every other day.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, she's the neighbor of my boss in person. And so I asked my boss to tell her to have a little bit of patience, and he got a kick out of it.
Yeah.
Hawthorne Gardens, this one, Dan, this one, you had a resolution open to the board? Or I think that was the proposed next step, to work with Meg and Richard. They were supposed to draft you something to send to the board.
Yeah, no, I met in the field with them. I'm gonna write up a draft resolution based on that for the traffic commission to review at the next meeting. And then if you recommend that, I'll bring that back to the board.
Thanks, Dan. Crown Court, we covered the light at Palmer and Rockland. So Dan, that one, you're gonna make a recommendation to take a look at what we can do with the light there, like as far as like what type of project and like work it would be to see what we'll at least see what we can do with the light.
Yeah, I'm looking to do a village-wide inventory of our traffic signals to see what we can do. It's kind of a outgrowth of a smaller project, which I want to look at for Mamaroneck Avenue for, if we can do some better timing and also to
Well, you're breaking up on my end.
improve the reliability of those signals, tens of thousands of dollars repairing those signals. I'm sorry. So it's a traffic signal inventory, so we know everything to work with him on that.
If I can just make a oh, you want to go first, Robert?
No, after you.
I saw in last minutes, Dan had who was it? No, Brian had an idea just to, on Palmer and Rockland Avenue, just to have, I guess, the light going north, have that a delayed green light, so we'll give people a chance to make that left turn. I mean, much less expensive than putting in a signal.
Yeah.
Did you follow? I mean, that would.
Yeah, I know, but
the delayed
that's
green light
part of
might be 20
the,
seconds.
what can the signal do based on the hardware that controls it?
Well, that's hard. It's hard to do. To just
No,
delay.
it
seems simple.
It's not as simple because every traffic signal has hardware that controls it.
Okay.
And the hardware operates under certain parameters. And if it can do certain things and it can't do other things. So I don't know if that's something that is a feasible suggestion until we go in there, look at the hardware and say, yes, it can, or no, it can't.
Has anyone stood there on the corner in the morning to take a look at how bad it is? Because the way that just from the email from this man, I got his name, it seems really bad to make that left turn in the morning. So maybe
It's impossible. You can't literally make the left, like, without risking, like, if you try to jump like the traffic coming the other way, then you can do it. But like I've sat there for like 10 minutes plus, just like waiting and waiting, like, and it's sometimes you might get like a bus, like, or something that's so it's crazy intersection.
So these people are trying to get to the Mamaroneck Avenue High School entrance on Boston Post Road, or just the back entrance by the gym?
Back entrance on Palmer.
Yeah, trying to get on
Right.
Palmer.
Where the gym is.
Yeah, Palmer Gymnast.
No, Palmer up the hill to where the gym is, as
Yeah, it's
opposed.
actually, you make the left on Rockland, the right on Carpenter or Woodbine.
Yep, to the gym. Got it.
I live at the corner there. You also have the problem as cars are making the left turn onto Rockland to go up. You have cars coming out of the gas station. I've seen it's a nasty location. I'm not sure how you fix that. I have one question for Dan. Dan, are you including the stoplights at Delancey and Boston Post Road, especially making the left turn coming down Delancey onto Boston Post Road. That is an awfully dangerous location.
Well, that's the state DOT's traffic lights. So, I mean, if there's a request about that, that would have to be forwarded to them to take a look at.
I just want to, yes, Robert, you're absolutely right. We walk the dog there twice a day. Without a doubt, once a week, either my wife or I say, oh, we almost got hit. I mean, the light changes and people just go right
And
through.
it's a little bit weird of an, it's, you have the.
And I don't
two-
blame people, but.
Well,
I-
it's an
I
offset
wanna
intersection
die.
between Delancey and Orienta, so you have those two separate signals. And, you know, they're phased a little bit differently to, you know, facilitate the traffic movement out there.
I cross that corner all the time as well. And Delancey and Palmer, I'm sorry, Boston Post Road, when you're making the left, I wait for the walk signal. I wait diligently for that walk signal. I walk, but the cars are still allowed to make a left onto me. Because right, Robert? I'm waiting for the walk signal. I have the walk. Supposedly cars have to wait, but they're coming right in. So it doesn't matter whether I wait for the walk signal or not. Right? I mean, I guess that happens at other spots too, but that is
Well, I mean,
be looked at.
well, once you're, you know, once you're in the crosswalk, you have the right, they're supposed to yield to you.
Oh, I know that, but they move pretty quickly.
That's a risky game.
I'm just saying, like, why should I wait for the walk sign when I'm going to get hit anyway?
Chicken crosses the road.
Let's wait for the results there.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. I got the, you know, once you're in a crosswalk, you have the right of way. Granted, I tell this story to people. I was hit in the Mamaroneck Avenue East Prospect crosswalk, but I had the right of way. So,
Yeah, right.
so, yeah, and it's not really feasible to do an all-way stop at that intersection because it's so long that to provide the amount of time is, yeah, it'd have to be a, you know, 30 to 40 second, you know, all-way stop, and then that would have a cascading impact on all the other intersections. Yeah, my internet connection is becoming unstable.
I think it's gotten better.
No, it got better.
Yeah.
You faded out before.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All good. Dan, the next item, the Tompkins Avenue crosswalk, that one you mentioned you were following up with DPW as that has become faded.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you know, part of it is, I think, we're still waiting on our new paint machine. It was destroyed as a result of flooding at DPW. So, and there are logistical issues in getting these types of items nowadays.
That makes sense. The Taylor's Lane, Boston Post Road, you mentioned a follow-up with DPW to trim the bushes.
Yeah, I'll follow. I didn't get a chance to do that.
All good. And then the North Barry, you mentioned the follow-up with some of the residents there.
Yeah, I will I'll work on that. I've been a little tied up with budget the last month.
All good.
Yeah, I apologize for that.
No worries at all. All right, that covers all the business. No, go on, Robert.
There are two items that we covered in the past that aren't on the old business. I just want to make sure that there's Carroll Avenue and the Chopped Restaurant across from the high school. Are those resolved? Could we figure out what to do there?
I think, and Dan, keep me honest on this, we were gonna investigate potential the speed sign or what it would be involved in having the speed sign or the flashing light sign.
Yeah, I asked for some recommendations and pricing options from our traffic engineer, so I'll follow up on that.
And what was the second item, Robert?
Carroll Avenue, we were going to add some more controls to explain about the one changing from a two-way street to a one-way street. Carroll Avenue is that street where it starts as a two-way, and when you get to, I forget the name of the street, becomes a one-way to Boston Post Road, and there was some confusion about making it clear the direction of traffic.
At Lorena, it's a one-way between the
Right,
Boston Post Road
right.
and Lorena.
The police chief had some good ideas about what to add there to, so there's no confusion about direction, where to go. And maybe we can refer back to some of our minutes. I think we wrote down a number of her suggestions. Maybe we can go back and check them out.
Speaking of minutes, you know, we could do this on a go forward at the beginning of the meeting, but I know there was some back and forth over whether to do it at the beginning or the end, but I think
Doesn't
now's a
matter.
good time. Yeah, let's, we have 3 meeting minutes. We have December, January, and February. I want to make a motion to approve the December minutes.
Motion to approve the December 2021 minutes.
And then
I
take a
second.
vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I think we have consensus. I think Laura and Andrew, we just need a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you improve the December 2021 minutes.
After, when I read an email that stated that because I wasn't a participant in those minutes that I couldn't vote.
I wrote that. I wasn't sure. Dan, can you clarify whether you have to be present at a meeting to vote on the minutes?
You do not have to be present at the meeting to vote on the minutes. What you're affirming is that that's a, and this is your comfort level, Laura. Wait, the minutes you're voting to say, yes, these are an accurate reflection of the discussion that took place at that meeting.
Well, I'm comfortable.
There's no, you're not legally prohibited from
No, I
voting
just-
on the minutes.
No, I
And there are
just.
no legal consequences for approving, right?
No, I was just following email directive or suggestion, but if I've reviewed them and thumbs up, how about
Thanks, Laura.
that?
You want to see the repercussions of a thumbs down if you weren't even on the commission. Okay, I'm gonna make a motion to approve the January minutes. We just need a second.
I'll make a
Uh,
motion to
The
approve.
January, not that it matters, but they called me Michael Stark a few times in the
Yes.
January minutes. It might be
It's
confusing.
it's a hybrid. It's
Was that you?
You're
Is that
my-
you,
you're my
Ryan?
brother. You're my brother.
Who did those
We've been
minutes?
talking-
I
we've
liked it,
talking
Ryan.
to
You
me.
got- you gotta
I
s-
can resubmit that
I don't know if it matters. Yeah, just, I don't want to hold up the minutes for that, so I will,
Yeah, don't.
I think we'll figure it out.
Okay, and then all in favor? Okay, and then lastly, I want to make a motion to approve the February minutes.
second.
And all in favor? All right, perfect. I'll let Alina and Robert know that they're officially approved. All right, that covers it. I know, and it's late, so I think, and we're set to meet again in 2 weeks. Go on, Robert.
So, Brian, your minutes were different from my minutes and Brian, but I like yours better. It's easier to do. It's easier to follow, less work. And I asked somebody what the format of minutes, and it's whatever you want it to be. So I like your minutes over my minutes. And, if anyone wants to go forward and do it that way, I'm in favor of that.
So what you were saying, Brian's, who has better minutes, Brian or Ron?
I didn't say better minutes. I didn't say better. I wasn't saying.
I'm making it light here.
Easier to take.
Which one did you like that seemed easier?
Brian's.
Abridged and unabridged.
Okay, so I have to put the minutes together, so I'm praying that the Zoom video is gonna be complete.
Just do the best you can. Don't worry.
It's a very tough, yeah, it's a tough job.
I was reading some other commission's
there's-
minutes and like ours are much better. Like,
My,
I'll
my
put it
wife
that way.
did the minutes for the tree committee. Hers are just, I mean, she's a journalist. They're just brief. So I mean, there's a lot of information here. That's,
Yeah, and it's hard and it's, yeah. Do the best that you can.
I think it's important that we have detail because when we come back to particular locations, we want to know what we discussed, what was recommended, what. And if you don't write that down, you're not going to remember.
No, it's fair.
I mean, it's fair. I mean, it's not, if you put down every detail, it's gonna be a long, I'll give it a shot.
Okay.
We're appreciative of the fact that people try. Maybe like, you know, the second go around, you know, we could criticize you,
And I
Michael.
think-
But the fact that anyone that, you know, the bunch of us have done it so far, it's,
No, I have a lot of samples, and I'm sure Robert's rules, there's a way to do minutes. I mean, Robert's
Yeah.
rules would have it. I don't know.
Don't do it that way, though.
Robert's rules?
No.
Why not?
It's not necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not necessary. I mean,
Yeah, you are not the United States Congress.
yeah. As,
No,
but,
come on, I'm a transportation commissioner. Come on.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
yeah, we could talk more about some of the, because I know we had some good dialogue over email. We can continue that, but as far as like other planning, like it's been a long meeting, a long
This is a
day.
great meeting. Can I just add one thing to kind of put this in perspective? We covered a lot. It's
Oh,
amazing
yeah.
how many. And I just want everyone to understand who wasn't who recently added to this commission. Except for tonight, the last 8 months of traffic committee, we only met 3 times. That's why you have this long list of
Old
backlog.
stuff.
As we go forward, hopefully we won't have this long list of things to cover. We'll be able to cover things more efficiently and do a much better job. We didn't have meetings for the pandemic and we didn't have quorums. Hopefully that won't happen again.
Your mouth
and
to
the
God's ears.
That's it.
And the community's engaged, and I think they appreciate the follow-up and asking to be involved. And it helps a lot having them speak firsthand about what's going on. And it gets some skin in the game from the residents instead of just firing an email off and hoping for the best. So, and the fact that you showed up, thank you everyone that has made trips so far. And, you know, as the weather's gotten better and as the pandemic hopefully has phased out or is phasing out, then these types of site visits are become more of the norm. So appreciate it. So Ryan, feel free, make the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I second. My third. All right, thanks, everyone. We appreciate it. Thank you, Chris.
you,
Thank
Lisa.
you, Andrew. Thank you, Dan.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank you, guys.
everyone.
Good night.
Have a great day.
Have a
Good
great
night.
night.
Thank you.